So in Vipassana meditation, so we are striving to develop Vipassana, this insight that leads to liberation. So, but insight, Vipassana, Panya, or Sampajanya, so it only arise when there's samadhi. So samadhi is a necessary condition for the arising of vipassana. Not just any samadhi, kanika samadhi, momentary concentration is necessary for the arising of vipassana. So, so this vipassana insight, this clarity of mind that discerns clearly the nature of the metaphysical phenomena as they really are. So now, in order to discern nature of metaphysical phenomena as they really are, so we need to clear away all the distraction, hindrances from the mind, because these hindrances prevents the mind from discerning clearly. So we need to clear them away from the mind before the mind is able to discern clearly. And this is the job of samadhi. Samadhi clears away the hindrances from the mind. So that's why in the Salayatana Samyutta, in Samadhi Sutta, the Buddha says, Samadhim bhikkhave bhavita, samahito bhikkhave bhikkhu, yatha bhutam pajjanati. So samadhim bhavita, the Buddha say, must develop samadhi. So Buddha instructed, must develop samadhi. Why? Samahito bhikkhu yatha bhutam pajjanati. The bhikkhu, or in this case the yogi, whose mind is in the state of samadhi, is able to discern clearly, pajjanati. So pajjanati here means panya. It's the verb for panya. Panya is the noun, wisdom, clarity of mind, clarity of discernment. So pajjanati is the verb. So discern clearly. So yogi whose mind is in the state of samadhi, discerns clearly nature as they really are. And the Buddha went on to talk about how the yogi discerns as they really are when the mind is in the state of samadhi. So he says he discerns as they really are, as it really is. The I is impermanent. He discerns as it really is. I consciousness is impermanent. He discerns as it really is. Eye contact is impermanent. He discerns as it really is. The feeling bond of eye contact is impermanent. And so on. So here is talking about the eye experience. This experience of seeing. So this is from Salayatana Samyutta, talking about 6 sense experiences. So Buddha also went on to describe the same about hearing, experience of hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and the mental process. Okay, at the mind door. Okay, so he's able to discern all these dhammas, mental, physical dhammas, arising in this sixth sense experience as impermanent. Okay. So now here Buddha is talking about discerning impermanent. Okay, that means the wisdom that he's talking about here is Vipassana wisdom. Okay, Vipassana is that which discerns clearly nature of impermanent suffering, non-self. Okay. So here, even though the Buddha did not use the word Vipassana, okay, if you understand what is Vipassana, you know clearly what he's talking about is Vipassana. Okay? And that only arises when the mind is in the state of samadhi. Okay? So therefore, samadhi is a necessary condition. Okay? For Vipassana to arise. So because samadhi is like a still forest pool. So you see a still forest pool. So completely still, the surface completely still. It's like a mirror. You stand beside it, you can see the reflection of the forest above it clearly. It reflects the forest above it exactly as it is. Okay? So the mind in the state of samadhi also is like this still forest pool. It's like a mirror that reflects clearly the nature of the object that it experienced, that it knows. Okay? Yeah. So samadhi is a necessary condition for the arising of vipassana insight. Okay? And not just any kind of samadhi, okay? But khanika samadhi, momentary concentration. So, in the Mahatika, the commentary to the Visuddhimagga, so there it says, Nahi khanika samadhi vina vipassana sambhavati, which means, literally it says that without khanika samadhi, momentary concentration, you cannot produce vipassana. That means vipassana does not arise without or in the absence of khanika samadhi. Yeah. So even the Satipatthana instruction, the last part, Vinaya Loke Abhijja Domanasa, removing desire and displeasure for the world. This part actually implies samadhi, because it's removing the hindrances. Okay, so what is it that remove? One is samadhi, the other one is insight, of course. So, but first samadhi remove the hindrances. Okay, and without that, insight also cannot arise, right? But of course, when the insight arises, also it also remove the hindrances, prevents the defilements from arising. Okay. Yeah. But firstly, samadhi. So this part of the Satipatthana instruction, removing desire and displeasure for the world, actually it implies the presence of samadhi. Okay? That means that as we develop Satipatthana, as we note continuously, precisely, moment to moment, with ardent effort, accurate clarity, firm mindfulness, not only the mindfulness develop, the concentration also develop along with it. Okay? And it's this concentration that is developed that leads to clear comprehension. Okay? Strengthening, developing of a clear comprehension, the accurate clarity, sampajanya. Now, to develop samadhi for Vipassana yogi, so you need to start with, as we said the other day, Kayanupassana. Okay, noting bodily objects. Okay, and you start by noting limited objects. Okay, so limited mostly to your primary object. Okay, so don't in the beginning, when you have not developed enough sufficient concentration, mindfulness concentration, so you should not run frequently to the secondary object. You only note the secondary object when it is absolutely necessary. Otherwise you stay with the primary object most of the time. Okay? Because if you try to take too many objects, this object also you want to note, that also you want to note, then because the mindfulness concentration not well developed yet, you cannot handle so many. You end up restless. So in the beginning, stay mostly with the primary object. The secondary object only when it's prominent, it pulls on your attention strongly. And then you have no choice, then only you know. Okay? Yeah. Some yogis, during the interview, they don't report primary object. Straight away go, this object, that object, any object they report except the primary object. In the end I have to ask, how's the primary object? So the first thing you should report is the primary object. Rising, falling, if not rising, falling, sitting, touching. Okay? In a walking meditation, the steps, lifting, pushing, placing. Okay? And you must describe what you observe. So, not how you know. Yes, how you know also important, but more importantly, what do you observe when you know? Okay? Some walking meditation. First, I note one face. Right step, left step. Then after that, I note two steps, lifting, placing. Then I note lifting, pushing, placing. Okay, finish. Then I report sitting meditation. You never report what you observe, what you experience. I also know you note lifting, pushing, placing. But what do you observe? So stay with the primary object. Note it continuously. Stay with it most of the time. Okay? So, and primary object also should be something, object that is gross, so that it's easy for the mind to follow. Okay? You take too subtle objects, the mind cannot follow, it keeps wandering off. And noting cannot continue. So it keeps breaking. Okay? So noting is not continuous, the mindfulness concentration cannot develop fast. Okay? So don't take gross objects, don't take subtle objects. Rising, falling, not clear, not sitting, touching. Okay? So, the object also must be simple. Simple, and don't have to think. So rising, falling, very simple. Yes, rising, falling. Why is so difficult about it? So simple. So easy for the mind to follow, flow along, and sink in. Okay. So you start with very simple gross object, like rising, falling. Rising, falling, not clear, then sitting, touching. Okay, in a walking meditation, you note the footsteps. Okay, lifting, pushing, placing. Okay. Daily activities, you note your physical activities that you are doing in that moment. Okay. So you start with these objects, simple, gross, and then you make effort to apply the basic method to note continuously. Okay? So now, as you make effort to note the hindrances, they're bound to arise. Okay? So hindrances, restless, wandering, sleepiness, laziness, resistance to making effort, boredom, aversion, agitation, desire, and so on. Okay? So they are bound to arise. Okay? And so each time they arise, they hinder, obstruct the practice. Okay? They hinder and obstruct the meditation. It ruins the meditation. Okay? So long as the hindrances are allowed to remain, your meditation is disrupted. Okay? They allow it to remain for 1 minute, your meditation is disrupted. You allow it to stay 2 minutes, it's disrupted for 2 minutes. Okay? You allow it to stay half an hour for half an hour, your meditation is disrupted. Okay? So in order for meditation not to be disrupted and ruined, the hindrances must be noted immediately and firmly, and dispelled by noting. Okay? Dispelled through noting. Not dispelled by pushing it away. Ignoring it. You must note it. But when you note it, you don't force it to go away. Some yogis not like chasing away the hindrance. Go away, go away. You're not wandering like go away. So you dispel by noting wholeheartedly. Okay? If you note wholeheartedly, naturally the hindrance will disappear. Because all the mental effort goes to noting. Okay? So that means you don't feed any energy into the hindrances. You divert all the energy to the noting mind. Then they will naturally die. You don't have to do anything. Simply step aside and watch it die. You will literally see it dissolve. Wandering, you're not wandering. The thoughts will just dissolve, disintegrate by itself because of nothing. You don't have to do anything. Your mind agitated, you step back, you watch, detach, watch. Agitation disappears, the mind calms down. So you must note immediately and dispel it with noting. Ideally, you must note the hindrances at the moment they arise. The very moment they arise. You should train your mind to be alert. The very moment a hindrance arise, whether desire or ill view, agitation, drowsiness, laziness, restlessness, wandering, and so on. Okay, whatever. The moment they arise, note it. Okay, because the moment that it arises, that's when it's the weakest. Okay, so in that moment you note it firmly. Very fast it will disappear. It's like drop of water drop onto a hot plate. It just very fast. But you allow it to grow, you don't note it immediately. It grow in the mind stronger and stronger and stronger. It'll be more and more difficult to dispel through noting. You have to put in more effort. Okay? So each time hindrance arises, note and dispel, note and dispel. Okay? So with repeated noting and dispelling, you weaken the hindrance. Okay? Every time you note them, you strengthen the mindfulness. Okay? But you weaken the hindrance. Okay? That is if you note firmly, wholeheartedly. Okay? So the hindrances becomes weaker and weaker, even as the mindfulness and concentration gradually develop. Okay? And there's this, I used to talk about this formula for the mind, wholesome mind and unwholesome mind. They are inverse proportion. Okay? When one strengthen, the other one weaken. Okay? So if the unwholesome mind strengthens, the wholesome mind weaken. Okay? But if the wholesome mind strengthens, the unwholesome mind weaken. So your noting mind is a wholesome mind. Okay? Comes in mindfulness. It's a wholesome mind. So when mindfulness becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, the unwholesome hindrances will become weaker and weaker. Okay? Yeah. So you choose. You have free will to choose wholesome or unwholesome. It's like election, you elect your government to run your mind. Which one? Wholesome or unwholesome? Every moment you know you got a choice. That's where the Chaitanya comes in, you choose intention to volition. Choose which one. As yogi, of course, you choose wholesomeness. Okay. So as the mindfulness and concentration gradually develops, those hindrances become weaker and weaker, then you find the mind will become distracted less and less. Okay? So, and eventually, you develop until a point where, for a period of time, all the distraction due to the hindrances ceases completely. Okay, and then only pure noting mind occurs continuously. And with each pure noting mind, you find that the noting mind falls into the object. Okay, so each noting, the mind keeps falling into the object, falling into the object. As if it's thrown into the object or plunges into it, moment to moment to moment. Okay, so when this happens, is where the Kanika Samadhi has developed, the momentary concentration or the moment to moment concentration has developed. Each time you know, the mind firmly goes into it, fix. And as the Kanika Samadhi strengthens, the mind will become exclusively pure. Okay? So, because it's pure nothing going on continuously. Okay? So each pure nothing mind is preceded and succeeded by another pure nothing mind. So it's going on continuously. One noting, another noting, another noting. Pure noting mind. Moment after moment. Okay? So there's this continuous process of pure noting consciousness that flows on moment to moment to moment, from noting one object to another. Okay? So there's no break, no gap in the continuous flow of moment to moment noting. Okay? So no impure thoughts, no unwholesome thoughts intervenes in between. Okay? Just a flow of pure, wholesome noting mind, on and on and on. Okay? So this constitute for the Vipassana yogi what we call the Chitta Visuddhi, okay? Purity of mind, which is one of the 7 stages of purity, okay? In the work of purification of mind from the cause of suffering. Okay? So the first one is, of course, Chitta Visuddhi is the second stage of purity. Okay? First stage is Sila Visuddhi. Okay? So that when you purify your Sila, for you observe the 8 precepts. That's why every morning you observe the 8 precepts. In case you have broken any of the precepts, you purify it again by observing it again. Okay? So this is the first stage of Sila. Okay? The second stage of Sila is Chitta Visuddhi, okay? Purity of the mind. Okay? So this involves Samadhi. Okay? So for Samatha yogis, it will be the Samatha jhanas. Okay? Upachara Samadhi as well as Appana Samadhi, absorption, concentration. Okay? So but for Vipassana yogi, it will be this Kanika Samadhi. Okay? But it must occur continuously. Okay? Not a bit here, a bit there. So it must be developed to the point where it occurs continuously. At least for a period of time. Okay? It may not last, but at least for a period of time. Okay? Depending on how far you develop it. Okay? So this is Chitta Visuddhi. Subsequent to this, there's another 5 stages of purity. But those pertains to insight. Okay? Purity through insight. Okay? Because insight knowledge purifies the mind. Okay? In fact, the real purification, avijja, tanha, upadana, it takes place through insight. Okay? So Sila Visuddhi, Chitta Visuddhi is more like preparation. So at this stage it's called Chitta Visuddhi. So prior to this Chitta Visuddhi, the mind is not totally pure. Even though you make effort to note continuously, it's not totally pure. Okay? You may think that it's pure, but actually all sorts of thoughts, desire, aversion, doubts and so on arise and intervenes in between. So the pure noting is mixed with impure consciousness. Okay? So you may be making effort to note continuously. Okay? But at the back of your mind you feel there's some undercurrent of unsettledness. The mind is not completely settled. Okay? There's still some unsettledness, wobbly, disturbed. Even though it can be very minor, but still is there. Okay? In the beginning, of course, a lot. So, but as you practice, the unsettledness reduce. Okay? But it's still there. But once you achieve this, when the strength of the Kanika Samadhi develops, then you achieve this Chitta Visuddhi. Okay? So the noting occurs, pure noting occurs efficiently and with momentum, okay? Such that no impure thoughts can intrude in between. So only pure noting mind occurs every moment, fixing the mind on the object, moment to moment to moment. Okay, so mind is unpolluted. Okay, and each moment you find the mind settle into the object. Okay, so moment to moment the mind settle. Okay, settle on each object that is noted. Okay, just like going into it, plunge into it. Right? Yeah, but for Vipassana yogis, when you first achieve Kanika Samadhi, this Chitta Visuddhi, so it doesn't last very long. In beginning, maybe just a few minutes, right? Then finish already, right? Because not enough momentum yet. You practice more, it may last longer, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or more. Okay? In the beginning, it won't last long. But later on, as you develop more and more, as the insight become more and more purified, it will last longer and longer. Okay? So, as Sankarupeka Jnana, it can last very long. Okay? Knowledge of equanimity towards formations can last very long because this insight, the mind is very stable. Okay, so it can last very long. Yogis can sit for hours without moving, totally absorbed into noting anicca, dukkha, anatta. So. Yeah, but it's not strong enough to last a whole day and a whole night. Okay, like in samatha meditation. Okay, but however long it is, however long it lasts, within that time when the mind is in Chitta Visuddhi, okay, the mind remains pure continuously. Okay, so the mind is clean and pure. Okay? And as a yogi, you can actually feel the purity of the mind. It's like the mind has been detoxed, clear of all the toxin of the mental defilements. Okay? So Chitta Visuddhi is a powerful state of wholesome mind. Okay? And as a result of this mental purity, the purity of the yogi's sila, his physical and verbal action, is also further purified and strengthened. So earlier, before you reach the stage of Chitta Visuddhi. You need a lot of effort to restrain your external action, right? Physical and verbal action. Restrain from killing, stealing, and maybe for your Buddhist many years, you can keep your precepts quite well. Okay, but 4 precepts, always difficulty, right? Especially you're working outside. Many Buddhists complain the most difficult precepts to observe. So they struggle with it. Why? Because internally the mind is not pure yet. So the defilements keep arising, prodding the mind to do akusala. Okay? The moment a situation arises, some people, even Buddhists, habitually, they tell lies. Sometimes they don't even realize it. Sometimes like white lies or what, but they don't realize it. And one devotee, every time I ask her to do something, she's very forgetful. So then each time I reminded her. The moment I reminded her, oh, I was just about to do it. So unconsciously, it is a habit already. So that shows the mind is still not pure. So the mind is not pure. All these defilements keep prodding the mind to perform akusala, and often out of habit. So sometimes even though you don't kill, but the moment you hear, even far away, the mosquito, your mind dosa already. Fear, agitation arise. So internally, the mind is still not pure. So you need to exert a lot of effort with mindfulness in order to restrain these defilements, so that you don't, break out and break the precepts. But often, because the strength of the mindfulness is not sufficiently developed yet, when the defilements is very, very strong, often you're unable to restrain, and then you just give in to the defilements, and then the precepts will be broken. But once a yogi has achieved this Chitta Visuddhi, so the mind is very pure, mindfulness is well developed, and the mind is kept continuously pure. The mind possesses this strength of purity, that enable it to resist unwholesomeness. This purity of mind is a strength. And you can feel the mind is very strong. It has no inclination at all to do any akusala. The whole mind is strongly inclined to purity. So your physical and verbal actions becomes automatically pure. You can keep your sila very easily, because internally the mind is pure. There's no defilements, so you are not struggling with any defilements. So your mind is like, as long as you remain in this state, your mind is like, you can say like an arahant, with no inclination. Arahants, they can keep the sila pure, right? Because there's no inclination at all, no defilements at all, to do any unwholesomeness. Okay? So, so the mind is inclined towards wholesomeness. Okay? So The mind automatically choose kusala over akusala. So it's like a person who just changed after shower, very clean, he changed into a very clean clothing. So you try as best as he can to avoid any dirt. Right? So when your mind is so pure, and it feels good actually in this state of purity, then you will stay away. You try to avoid any akusala. That means your hiri otapa also very strong. Okay? So part of the noting mind is also hiri otapa. It's a pure, wholesome mind. Okay? So hiri otapa, this shame and fear of akusala, you stay away from it. Okay? And due to this purity of mind also, the mind becomes very refined. And this refinement of the mind reflects back on your physical and verbal action. Your sila again, your sila. And so your speech and action also becomes very refined, gentle, cultured, well restrained. Okay? So a yogi who is in the state of sila visuddhi, this chitta visuddhi, is able to carry himself or herself calmly. Carry himself or herself with calmness, with composure, with steadiness, with restraint. So you can see this in the yogi's external behavior. So he or she will go about daily activities well restrained. There's no excitement in his physical or verbal actions. Okay? Physically, you go about activities calmly, not rushing here and there, hurrying to go here, go there, rushing to do this or do that. Okay? So there's no display of excitement at all. You do everything calmly, with calmness, composure. Okay? So his eyes also does not look here and there. So all the actions are graceful, elegant, well restrained. Right? So verbally also, the speech is without any excitement. Okay? He speaks calmly. So his speech also shows the clarity of mind within. So he speaks clearly, coherently, not jumping here and there excitedly without any clear sequence. So he speaks clearly with clear logical sequence. So when a yogi, his mind is in this state, you come to interview very clear. You listen to the report also, you understand exactly the state of mind. Because you can report very clearly experience. Okay? Presents the report very systematically. Okay? With sequence. Not jump here and there. So some yogis report sitting meditation halfway, talk about daily activities, then jump back to sitting again, then after that go back to 3 retreats ago. Sometimes I listen, how come they're so different? I ask, this one from last year. So they jump without telling you. So you listen to their report also. How come so funny? So So in the state of Chitta Visuddhi, only pure noting goes on. Okay? No intervening impure mind comes in. And in such a condition, also there's no thoughts. Thinking cannot arise. Okay? Only pure noting goes on moment to moment to moment. No thinking can come in. Because thinking is also a hindrance. Okay? So no thoughts can arise in the state of Chitta Visuddhi. Okay? So therefore the yogi don't even have any thought that, oh, I'm noting so well, I'm noting continuously, I'm noting so clearly. Okay? So such thoughts does not arise. The mind is simply noting, experiencing the bare nature of object in each moment. Yeah? And when it notes also, there's not even the thought about the nature of the object noted. Yeah? This is hardness, this is pressure, this is tightness, or what. So needless to say, more complex thought, this is the earth element, this is the... I'm doing Chitta-nupassana, I'm doing this, all these thoughts does not arise at all. Okay? So, yet the mind is experiencing clearly the bare nature in each moment. It's experiencing pushing or tightness or pressure, the knowing or noting. So it's experiencing clearly. So there's just this bare experience, okay, without any thoughts. Okay? There's just a continuous, clear, bare experience of bare qualities, bare nature, every moment. Okay? So because nothing is going on continuously without any intervening thoughts about what is being noted, or even the thought I am noting does not arise. So it's like the yogi's mind is lost in nothing. Okay? Completely lost in nothing. Yeah? Because he don't even have the idea that he is noting. Right? Because he can't even think. So if you cannot think, how can you have any idea that you are noting? Right? So noting just goes on and on its own. Okay? So it's like, when you are lost in thoughts or you're lost in a daydream, do you know that you are daydreaming? You do not know, right? Until you snap out of it, then only you know. Oh, I was daydreaming, right? So here also, so just pure noting goes on and on and on. Okay? But because there's no thought that I am noting, so therefore the yogi do not know, okay? That he is noting continuously, clearly. Okay? So only after he come out from that state of continuous noting, and then he look back, then only he realized, oh, he was lost in noting. Okay? But yet, noting is going on. When noting was going on, he's noting clearly, noting continuously. He knows the nature as noted clearly. Okay, so when he reflect back on the experience, okay, he can tell what has been experienced. Okay, and he can report during the interview very clearly. Okay. So Chitta Visuddhi is that you're lost in noting. It's like you're absorbed in noting. Okay? So in this sense, it is a bit like the jhana. The samatha jhana. Okay? And samatha jhana also, the yogi's mind is is absorbed, completely absorbed into the object. Right? They say there's a unification of the object. The mind and the object unifies, become one. Okay? That means there's no subject-object difference. Okay? So when this happens, all that the yogi knows is just the object and nothing else. The mind is just like lost in the object, absorbed into it. So for example, if the yogi is meditating on the white kasina, so when he achieves jhana, the mind absorbed into the image of the white kasina. Okay, so it's, the mind becomes that whiteness. The whiteness becomes the mind. That is unified. Okay, there's no subject-object difference. Okay, so the mind is the whiteness is the mind. Okay, so the mind is completely lost in that whiteness. Okay, and in this experience, there's just whiteness and nothing else. There's not even the idea. The front is white, the back is white, the left, right, up, down is white. There's no such idea. There's just whiteness. Okay, so undifferentiated whiteness. Okay? So experience of absorption in jhana is an undifferentiated experience. Okay? There's no front, no back, no left, no right, no up, no down. Okay? So a yogi don't even experience the body and the mind. Okay? That's just whiteness. That's all. It's like you're lost in the dream of whiteness. So in this state, you even lost the sense of time and space. Okay, you do not know the passing of time. You do not know any idea about space, front, back, left, and so on. Okay, just whiteness. That's all. So the mind is completely absorbed into this whiteness. Okay, so whilst in the state of the absorption, he don't even know that he's in that whiteness. Right? So it's only after he withdraw from the jhana and look back, then only he realizes what has happened. The mind has absorbed into this peaceful state of whiteness all around. Okay? So something like this happened for a Vipassana yogi when he's in the state of Citta Visuddhi. Something like this, not exactly the same, but something like it happened. There's nothing, just goes on, and all the yogi knows in the state of Citta Visuddhi is only the nature, Dhamma. Okay? Only object and knowing in terms of their nature. Okay? So each moment is just nature, mental, physical nature, object knowing, and nothing else. Okay? So don't even have the sense of the person noting, right? Because that's totally gone. That's just Dhamma. Okay? So it's totally anatta, just Dhamma, anatta Dhamma. Okay? But unlike the experience of samatha absorption is undifferentiated experience. Okay? But in the case of Vipassana, the experience is differentiated. Okay? Because you are noting one nature after another, right? Moment to moment. It's new Dhamma, new Dhamma. Okay? So it's differentiated. Because it's differentiated, then only you can see the change, the arising, disappearing, the impermanent suffering, non-self. If it's undifferentiated, you cannot see any change, you cannot discern anicca, dukkha, anatta. Okay? So it's a differentiated experience. Okay? So one nature after another, one Dhamma, another Dhamma, another Dhamma. Okay? But there's no sense of a person doing the noting. Okay? So there's just a sense of momentary nature. One after another, continuously. Okay? So the mind is lost in the noting of this momentary nature. One after another. It's like it's completely absorbed into noting this nature, one after another, after another. Okay? So because there's some kind of absorption going on, so the state of Citta Visuddhi or a Vipassana yogi is sometimes called Vipassana jhana. So teachers like Mahasiddhata refer to them as Vipassana jhana. Okay? Because the mind is like immovably lost in noting of each occurrence of mental physical nature. Okay? But it's called Vipassana jhana. It means it's not the same as Samatha jhana. Okay? Otherwise we'll just call it Samatha jhana. Right? It's Vipassana jhana. Okay? So there is a difference. Okay? So what's the difference between the Vipassana absorption and the Samatha absorption? Difference is that Vipassana absorption is momentary. Okay? So it's in this moment it's absorbed, this object absorbed. Next moment another object absorbed. Next moment another absorbed. Okay? It's momentary. Okay? But Samatha is continuous. Okay? Because the object is concept. So as long as the jhana factors is strong enough for the mind to hold on to this concept, it doesn't change. Okay? So it doesn't change, the whole mind absorb into that. Okay? But Vipassana object change. It's sankhara, it's mental physical nature, it's momentary. So therefore, the absorption also momentary. But moment to moment. Okay? So a difference in terms of simile, you can say the Samatha jhana is like you take a needle and then you poke it into the pin cushion. Poke it, and just stay there, and that's all. And that is Samatha jhana. It just stay there on the object. It doesn't move. Okay? Whereas Vipassana, the absorption, momentary concentration is like the sewing machine, the needle of the sewing machine. It was one after another. Okay? As the cloth passes through the point, it goes in, out. So the cloth is like the stream of Vipassana object. So Vipassana object is like a stream, one after another, arising, disappearing, arising, disappearing. Okay? So that point where the needle is, that is the present moment. So before that is future object. After you pass through that point is past object. Okay? So the needle only goes in the present. So momentary concentration goes in the present moment object. Okay? But very fast it disappears. So then the concentration also disappears. Okay? And then next object again absorbs. So moment to moment to moment, again and again and again. So that's the difference between the absorption in Vipassana and Samatha. Now, so momentary concentration, we have been talking a lot about it. But what exactly it is? Now we look at the definition. This definition is given in the Mahatika again. So in the Mahatika, I explain Kanika Samadhi as Kanamata Titiko Samadhi, which means the Samadhi that lasts for only a moment. Okay? Yeah. So this is the nature of Kanika Samadhi. It lasts for only a moment. Okay? So why does it last only a moment? Because the object of Kanika Samadhi. Okay? What is the object of Kanika Samadhi? It is Nama Rupa, mental physical nature, the 5 aggregates. Right? How long do they last? They last only a moment. Right? This object, Sankhara, mental physical phenomena, lasts only a moment. And this Kanika Samadhi arise depending on this object. Okay? So mental states arise depending on object. Without object, mind does not arise. Okay? So it needs an object. This is called aramana pacaya, object conditioning. Okay? So it arises depending on this object. But this object is momentary. Okay? So that means if it depends on it, and this object lasts for only a moment, the concentration also lasts for only a moment. Okay? That's why it's called Kanamata Titiko Samadhi. Okay? The Samadhi that lasts or endures for only a moment. Okay? Now, so some people, when they hear this definition of Kanika Samadhi, they say, it lasts for only one moment. Then they think, how can it be strong? If it lasts for only a moment, how can it be strong enough to develop Vipassana insight? Okay? So the commentary, the Mahatika explain further. Okay? So it says, so after it define the Kanika Samadhi, Kanamata Titiko Samadhi, Samadhi that lasts for only a moment, then it continues to say, Sopihi aramani nirantaram ekakarena pavattamano patipakena anabhibhuto apitoviya chittam nichalam tapeti. Okay? So this means that Kanika Samadhi, when nirantaram pavattamano, when it occurs, when it is occurring uninterruptedly, okay, nirantaram pavattamano. So nirantara, antara, antara, in between. So nirantara means nothing in between. Okay, that means it occurs continuously. without a break. So it occurs uninterruptedly. Okay? That's in the state of Citta Visuddhi. So, and Aramane, Aramane Pavatamano. Okay? So it occurs with its respective object. So it causes momentary concentration. Each moment it takes its own object. Okay, so each moment has its own respective object. Okay, so when it's occurring uninterruptedly with its respective object, and ekakarina, in a single mode. It occurs in a single mode. So this single mode, Mahasiddhara explained, it means that its strength, intensity does not fluctuate, does not go up and down, sometimes weak, sometimes strong. It's persistent, the same strength continuously. Okay? So that means it's a concentration that is stable. So it means it develops, it has momentum, it doesn't fluctuate. And anabhibuddho, it means it's not overcome by opposition. Opposition here means hindrances. Okay? So when it's occurring continuously in the state of Citta Visuddhi, no hindrances can arise. There's no opposition to it. Okay? So when it's occurring uninterruptedly with its respective object in a single mode, and it's not overcome by opposition, and what happened? So it says, Chittam nichalam tapeti. It fixes the mind immovably. Nichalam, chala means shaking. So like bhumi chala means bhumi, earth. Bhumi chala means earthquake. So nichala means it's not shaking. Okay? So it's immovable, it's steady. Okay? Tapeti means it fixes. Citta means the mind. So it fixes the mind immovably. Okay? Apitoviya, as if in absorption. Okay? So this is the strength of momentary concentration, when it is well developed, when it's occurring continuously, moment to moment to moment, with momentum, and the strength does not fluctuate. Okay, and there's nothing to oppose it. Okay, then it has that strength of absorption, moment to moment. It fixes the mind on each object that's occurring. Okay? So every moment, the mind is as if absorb this object. The next object also absorb. Next moment also absorb. Okay? So the absorption is momentary, because the object lasts only a moment. Okay? But when it's occurring continuously, it has the strength, the power to penetrate into the profound nature of the object. Okay? So it's able. That's why it's able to develop insights. Okay. So you think, only one moment. You think it's very big. Okay. But when it's well developed and it's occurring continuously, in a state of Citta Visuddhi, it can be very, very strong. Okay? It's like in absorption. Okay? It's like you take a piece of thread. A piece of thread is very weak. You pull it, it snaps. right? But if you take many pieces of thread and then you weave them together into a piece of cloth, you try to tear, it's more difficult because it has strength. So similarly, momentary concentration, when it's well developed into the state of Citta Visuddhi, he has that strength, penetrative strength. And so it's within the state of Citta Visuddhi that insight knowledge can arise. The mind can discern clearly nature of anicca, dukkha, anatta. Okay? Now, due to the nature of Khanika Samadhi, the fact that it arises and passes away together with the metaphysical nature. So, because of this nature, insight knowledge can only arise with Khanika Samadhi. Okay? And that's why just now we quoted from the Mahatika. Mahatika says that insight, Vipassana insight, cannot develop without Khanika Samadhi. Okay? So because only in Khanika Samadhi it arises, passes away together with the object. Okay? So it allows the mind, the noting mind, to keep track of the moment to moment arising and disappearing of the object. Okay? So, which is necessary for development of insight. You want to develop insight into impermanent suffering and non-self, you must be able to observe moment to moment process arising, disappearing of this metaphysical phenomena. Okay? And only momentary concentration allows the mind to observe this clearly. Okay? So, the jhanas does not allow the mind to observe this. First of all, in the samatha practice, the jhana, samatha jhana, the object are mostly concepts. So concepts that is not real. Right? So we said the other day, you want to develop Vipassana, you must take object that is real. Right? It has real nature. Then only you can see clearly its nature of impermanent suffering, non-self. And even if the object is real, but in the state of jhana, the mind is completely absorbed into the object, unified with the object. It's an undifferentiated experience. Okay? So you cannot, when the experience is undifferentiated, you cannot discern any moment-to-moment changes. Okay? And therefore you cannot discern anicca, dukkha, anatta. Okay? Then you cannot develop vipassana. Okay? That's why the jhanas, they are not suitable for development of insight. Okay? Only Khanika Samadhi, you can develop insight. That's why even the samatha yogi, when they want to develop vipassana, okay? When they want to switch from samatha to vipassana, they have to come out from jhana. They cannot remain in jhana to develop vipassana. They have to come out from it. Okay? And then turn your mind back on the jhana and then contemplate that jhana, note the jhana. The nature of impermanent suffering, non-self of the jhana. Okay? And when they are noting the jhana, they are noting with Khanika Samadhi. Okay? Because the mind is no longer in jhana. Okay? So they cannot develop vipassana while they remain in jhana. Okay. Now, now let's look at Kanika Samadhi in the suttas. Okay? Some criticize that Kanika Samadhi is not mentioned at all in the suttas, and therefore it is not in accordance with the Buddha's teaching. So what do you say to that? So actually it's true, you cannot find Kanika Samadhi mentioned. This word Kanika Samadhi is not literally mentioned at all in the sutta. You can search nowadays. Tipitaka has been digitized. You can search. So I have searched. You cannot find. So Kanika Samadhi is a term that is found in the commentary. Okay? It's a term that is coined by the ancient commentary teachers. And they use this term. They coined this term because they need a term to refer to the concentration that is present when the yogi is discerning the rise and fall of nama rupa. Okay, so in the suttas, Buddha regularly talk about noting of nature of rise and fall of nama rupa. But whenever he mentioned noting of rise and fall of nama rupa, he never mentioned anything about samadhi. Okay, for example, in Satipatthana Sutta itself. So in each object that the Buddha taught in the Satipatthana Sutta, so you will say, you will give the instruction to note the nature of arising and the nature of disappearance. So, samudaya dhammanupasiva kayasmi viharati. He dwells continuously noting nature of arising in the body. Vaya dhammanupasiva kayasmi viharati. He dwells continuously noting the nature of disappearing in the body. And then samudaya vaya dhammanupasiva kayasmi viharati. Or he dwells continuously noting both the nature of arising and disappearing in the body. So here Buddha did not mention anything about Kanika Samadhi or any Samadhi at all. Right? So, but does that mean that Samadhi is not present? So, if you are experienced yogi, you have noted before the very rapid arising and passing away of the nama rupa. From your experience, you know that in order to discern this moment-to-moment arising and disappearing, it requires a very good degree of samadhi. Okay? And because the rise and fall can be very, very fine, very subtle, and very, very fast. Okay? So without samadhi, without this focused attention, you cannot discern it clearly, you cannot follow it. So even though Buddha did not mention any samadhi at all, it is implied. Right? Any yogi that reads this passage, any experienced yogi that reads this passage knows there must be samadhi present. Okay? But the question is, what samadhi? But just now we already established there is only one type of samadhi that enables the yogi to discern arising, disappearing of the nama rupa. That is Kanika Samadhi. Now let's take another sutta where the Buddha actually did mention about samadhi. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Chattuka Nipata Pali, the book of the Force, the fourth book of Anguttara Nikaya, is Samadhi Bhavana Sutta. So, discourse on development of samadhi. So in this sutta, Buddha mentioned 4 different development of samadhi, or 4 different ways samadhi is developed. We will not talk about all the 4. We only talk about one of them, which is relevant to our discussion here. So the Buddha asks, Katamacha bhikkhave samadhi bhavana bhavita bahulikata asavanam kayaya samvartati. So he asks, and what bhikkhus is the development of samadhi, which when developed and cultivated leads to the destruction of the asavas, of the mental things. So you know what are the asavas? Every day you chant idame punyam asava kayavaham hotu. So asavas, these are the mental defilements. Explained as the mental impurity that flows out from the mind. Something like when you have a wound and you do not treat it with antiseptic, after a while it becomes septic. It fester, and then impurities flow out from it, like the pus and so on. So asavas is like this impurity that flows out. So it's explained as the impurities that flows out from the mind of beings in samsara, from the lowest existence in the avicii, all the way up to the highest existence in the immaterial Brahma world. So these defilements keep flowing up from the mind of beings. And there are 4 of these asavas. As kama sava, the taints of sensual desire. So sensual desire. You see, every day you look at beings all around you. Sensual desire keeps flowing out from the mind. Again and again, you want to see good things, listen to nice music, smell fragrant things, taste good food, and so on. Sensual desire is flowing out. Then there's bhavasava. Here means existence. Here means attachment to existence. Again and again, we want to be reborn here and there to enjoy ourselves. So this also keeps flowing out. I want to become this, I want to become that. So flowing out. Then ditthasava, ditti, wrong views. So this also wrong view about the Sakaya Ditti, personality as this person all the time. I'm the same person since the day I was born. So wrong view of self and so on. Wrong view of karma. So, and then the last one is avijjasava, ignorance of the Four Noble Truths. So now, so the Buddha is talk about the asavas, which when he talk about the development of samadhi, which when developed and cultivated leads to the destruction of the asavas. Okay, so these 4 asavas, how are they destroyed? Okay? So they are destroyed by means of Magga. Okay, the noble path. Okay, so like Ditti Sava, Ditta Sava, the taints of wrong view. Wrong view is completely destroyed by through Sotapatti Magga, the path of stream entry. Okay, so when a yogi attain the first path of stream entry, the stain of wrong view is completely destroyed. Okay, then, but the other 3 remain. So, sensual desire, attachment to existence, and ignorance remain. Okay. Then, when he attained the 3rd path, Anagami Magga, okay, the 2nd path does not destroy anything, but what it does is it weakens whatever remains. Okay, so the other 3 that remains are weakened by the 2nd path, Sakadagami Magga. Okay? But it does not totally destroy them. Okay? But when you attain the 3rd path, Anagami Magga, okay? So then Kama Sava, sensual desire, totally destroyed. Okay? But the other 2 remain. So the other 2 will only be destroyed by the 4th path, Arahata Magga. Okay? So the asavas are destroyed through attainment of the noble path, the various stages of Magga. Okay? So when Buddha talk about development of samadhi that leads to the destruction of asavas, that means the development of samadhi, okay, that leads to the attainment of these various stages of Magga. Okay? And what is this development of samadhi that leads to destruction of asavas? Okay? Or the various stages of Magga that destroy the asavas. So Buddha explained. And it says, Ida bhikkhave bhikkhu panchasu upadana khandesu udaya bhaya nupasi viharati. So he says, here, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu dwells continuously, noting the rise and fall in the 5 aggregates. Okay? So note the 5 aggregates, arising, disappearing, moment to moment, continuously noting. Okay? So here again, noting the rise and fall of the 5 aggregates of the nama rupa. Okay? So the development, this is how you develop this samadhi, okay? That leads to the destruction of the asavas, that leads to the attainment of these various noble paths that destroy the asavas. Okay? By noting the rise and fall, continuously noting rise and fall of the 5 aggregates. Okay? So what is this samadhi? Again, only one, Kanika samadhi, momentary concentration. Okay? So even though Buddha didn't say this is Kanika samadhi, he didn't use the word Kanika samadhi here. Okay? But if you know what is Kanika samadhi, so you know that it's the only concentration that allows the yogi to discern clearly the rising, disappearing, okay, of the 5 aggregates. Okay? And you know this is Kanika Samadhi. Huh? So, now, but some question this, but the Buddha defines Samma Samadhi, right concentration, as only the 4 jhanas, right? So how? But you see, this samadhi leads to attainment of the noble path. This Kanika Samadhi. So, if it leads to attainment of the noble path, is it Samma Samadhi or Miccha Samadhi? It must be Samma Samadhi, right? Otherwise, it cannot lead to attainment of the noble path. Okay, so the Kanika Samadhi here must be Samma Samadhi, right concentration. Otherwise, impossible to attain the noble path. Okay. Now, then, how do you explain? Buddha, when he defined Samma Samadhi only as the Samatha jhana, the 4 jhanas. So now, here you need to understand there is the different magga, path. We say magga. There are different type of magga. Okay, so. There is Mula Magga, okay, which is the, you can say, foundation path, Mula Magga. And then there is Pubbabagga Magga, that's a preliminary path, okay. And then there is Ariya Magga, the noble path, okay. Ariya Magga, the noble path, is the real noble eightfold path. Okay, this is the path that leads to the cessation of suffering. That means attainment of nibbana. Ariya Magga, okay, the noble path, and this noble path arises only in one single moment. Okay, at the culmination of the development of vipassana, it arises only a single moment. Okay? Now, but it doesn't just arise suddenly. Okay? You have to do some work before it can arise. So what are these work? Mula Magga, Pubbabagga Magga. Foundation path and preliminary path. Foundation path means the yogi established in sila and samadhi. Okay, and that is the foundation path. Okay, Mula Magga. Okay, that is the foundation. Before you can develop insight, you have to establish sila and samadhi. Okay, then only comes panya. Vipassana is panya. Okay. So sila, samadhi, panya. So sila and samadhi is Mula Magga. Okay, foundation path. Then once you establish sila and samadhi, then you proceed to develop vipassana. Okay, means vipassana bhavana. Develop vipassana. Vipassana bhavana is Pubbabagga Magga, preliminary path. Okay, in the sense that it is the preliminary work that you must do before Ariya Magga, the noble path, can arise. Okay? If you do not develop insight until it becomes fully mature, the noble path cannot arise. Okay? So you have to spend your time developing insight. Go through all the stages of insight. Okay? Develop insight into anicca, dukkha, anatta. Until it's fully mature. Then only Ariya Magga arise. And it arises only in a single moment. Okay? That is enough. Because all the work has been done. So you only need a single moment. In that one moment, it awakens. That's the moment of enlightenment. Okay? In that one moment, it awakens to the Four Noble Truths. So you awaken, you penetrate, fully understand the truth of suffering, completely abandon the cause of suffering, okay? Experience the cessation of suffering, and then completely develop the path. That is the noble path that has been developed. Okay? So in that moment, the Eightfold Path arises. The 8 factors arise together. Okay? And these 8 factors is what directs the mind to experience the cessation of suffering. That's why it's called the path that leads to the cessation of suffering. Okay? So all it needs is just this one moment. It awakens to the Four Noble Truths. Okay? So, now, so in the sutta, when the Buddha is defining the factors of the Eightfold Path, so when he defines Samma Samadhi as the jhanas, right, he is actually referring to the noble path, the Eightfold Path. Okay, the noble Eightfold Path. Okay, that arises in that one moment. Okay, so because in that one moment, all the 8 factors arise together. Okay, now in the preliminary path, the 3 sila factors are not active. Okay, you fulfill it before you begin your practice. While you're practicing, when you're noting, only the other 5 factors are active in the work of noting. Sila is not active. Right? You already fulfill it before that. Okay? While you are noting, you make effort. Right? That's right effort. You make effort to bring up the mindfulness, the right mindfulness. Okay? The right mindfulness develop continuously into samadhi, the right samadhi, kanika samadhi. Right? And then, so based on this kanika samadhi, again and again, you note, direct the mind. And that directing the mind, that is the right thought. Right? And then, as you know, the mind is clear, it discerns anicca, dukkha, anatta. Right? That is right view. Okay? So, only the 5 factors are active. Okay? So, but at the moment of Ariya Magga, in that one moment, all 8 factors arise together and they are active. Okay? So the Buddha was referring to the 8 factors. So he defined all the 8 factors. Okay? So he was defining the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay? Not the preliminary path. Okay? So, and in the moment of Magga, okay, when the mind takes Nibbana as an object, in that moment, that Magga Citta, the path consciousness, is a jhana citta. Okay? It's absorbed into Nibbana. Okay? So it can either occur as first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana. Okay? So, for Vipassana yogi who do not develop any jhana, when the Magga arises, the first jhana. Okay? For Samatha yogi is different. It depends on the jhana they have developed before that. Jhana that they use to develop Vipassana. Okay? But regardless, at the moment of Magga, Magga Citta is a jhana citta. Those of you who study Abhidhamma, you know this. Magga Citta and Phala Citta, they are jhana citta. Okay? So at that moment, Magga is jhana. Okay? But during the preliminary path, right, Bubbabhaga Magga, you are developing insight. To develop insight, you are noting arising, disappearing of the sankharas, the mental, physical nature. Right? So at that moment, It must be Kanika Samadhi. Okay? It cannot be the jhana. Okay? So for Samatha Yogi, they develop jhana, but that is during Mula Magga. Right? So when they're establishing Citta Visuddhi, they develop jhana, Mula Magga. But when it comes to Pubbabhaga Magga, the preliminary path, then they switch to developing Vipassana. Okay? They must withdraw from the jhana and then develop Vipassana using Kanika Samadhi. Okay? And then when the Vipassana mature, Magga arise, and then again is jhana. Okay? So when the Buddha defines Samma Samadhi as the four jhanas, is defining the factors of the noble path. Okay? The Ariya Magga, not the Pubbabhaga Magga. Okay? Satipatthana, as taught in Satipatthana Sutta, concerns only Pubbabhaga Magga, not Ariya Magga. So therefore, Satipatthana Sutta is Kanika Samadhi. Okay? Although the last part of Satipatthana Sutta, under Dhammanupassana, the Four Noble Truths, so that last part, yes, that is supramundane. Okay? Because the practice finally leads to awakening to the Four Noble Truths. Okay? So that last part, that's why in the Satipatthana Sutta itself, actually Buddha defines Samma Samadhi as the four jhanas. Okay? Because the last part is supramundane. Is the Ariya Magga. Okay. So 10 o'clock already. But this is the last talk, so never mind. Tomorrow, you go home, you can sleep all you want. In fact, tonight you should strive whole night. Okay.